In this video, we're going to take a look at Sailor Kobe's Hatoba Pier number 2. Now, as always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Also down in the description is a link to the blue ink playlist, so if you want to see more blue inks, you can find that down there. Now, I'm an ink guy, and let's get into the first writing sample done on 90 GSM Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. We get no feather, spread, halo sheen. We do get some nice shading in the extra fine, not so much in the stub, very little in the medium. Now the extra fine's quite a bit lighter than the stub, and the medium's the same tone as the stub. Extra fine took 8 seconds to dry, and the medium took 13. Scrubby of the extra fine shows some color variation. We definitely get it. Medium shows none, and there's only tiny little bits of lighter spots there. The smear test says you might be able to recover the extra fine, you'd have a hard time recovering the medium. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then a Pilot Custom 912 with a music nib is inked up, used for a day, and used to take the notes for this video. The next writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. No bleeding, some minor ghosting with the medium. We have no feather, spread, halo sheen. We get no shading, but we have quite a bit of tone variation. The extra fine's a lot lighter than the medium or the stub. The extra fine took 15 seconds to dry and the medium took 20. Scrubby for both give us no color variation, and we're not getting it in the writing. Smear test says you probably could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down, and then it's put in the water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see a very even covering of blue from where it was put all the way till it's gathering at the top. Now, it does mean that it's bonding as it's going, giving that even distribution. The one on the right is let dry for 10 minutes before it's put into water, and you see a dark line of blue at the bottom where it is really bonded in a short amount of time, and a fairly even spread of the blue as it's moving up. So given more time, it may bond quite a bit more. We'll probably expect a lot of resistance from this ink. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. Don't worry about where the scrubby is. Don't look at the man behind the curtain. We have no feathers, spread, halo sheen, no shading in the stub or in the medium. But in the extra fine, it's very nice, noticeably there, giving some real character. The extra fine's a lot lighter than the stub, and the medium's the same tone as the stub. The extra fine took 10 seconds to dry, while the medium took 14. The scrubby of the extra fine shows some color variation. We definitely have that. And the scrubby of the medium shows none because we have none. The smear test says you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, there's a bit of blowout and some muddiness that occurs in that, but I would not use it to highlight in my notes. So what in the world? I completely butchered it. So I wouldn't use it if I needed to highlight in a note-taking situation. Look in the middle of this swatch and you do see some red sheen that occurs. I never saw that in the writing. It's why I don't care for swatches to see an ink. Water is doing nothing. It's not really doing anything. You see it moved it just a little bit. That's where the edge of that is, but nothing else. Pen flush is starting to break it down. You do start seeing some of the white of the paper coming through. 1/3 bleach solution is completely removing it while discoloring it slightly, but it only took water to get this out of my pen. The next writing sample is done on yellow Rhodia paper. We do this not to see performance change, but to see tone change in the ink for the yellow paper. Now, while it's very blue here, it becomes a very blue-leaning turquoise with the yellow paper, meaning it's quite a bit more translucent than I was expecting. But it's also something to be aware of if you work in a professional environment and do write on yellow paper. For the inks tested, the average viscosity is 2.5, and the realm of normal is 2.1 to 2.9. Sailor Kobe's number 2 has a viscosity of 1.58, so this is a wet ink. If you're interested in how the viscosity and all that's done, then down in the description is a link to that video. The next writing sample is done on life paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. We get no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shading. I think it's the tone of the paper that really eats it up. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub, while the medium's the same tone. The extra fine took 8 seconds to dry and the medium took 13. Scrubby for both give us no color variation. We don't get it in the writing. And the smear test, you know, I can kind of see the lines underneath the smear, so I think you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average dry time is 17 seconds, and the realm of normal is 13 to 21 seconds. Sailor Kobe's number 2 has an average dry time of 13 seconds. While it's right on the edge, it's still normal. The last writing sample is done on G-Lalo paper. No bleeding and no ghosting. We get no feather, spread, halo sheen. We do get light feather or light shading spots that occur with the extra fine, which is quite a bit lighter than the stub, and the medium's the same tone as the stub. Extra fine took 5 seconds to dry, while the medium took 5. Scrubby for both give us no real color variation, but we do get that light peppering of shading in the extra fine. And the smear test, I think you could recover the extra fine. I don't think you could recover the medium if you smeared while you were writing. Instead of finding inks that look like Sailor Kobe's number 2, I'd prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I decided to go with a nice classic black by Diamine, their Quartz black. If you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description are links to those playlists. So what do I think of Sailor Kobe's Hatoba Pier number 2? A lot to remember there. It's well behaved, and I can see it as a go-to blue, as it shades well and has tone variation depending on the pen. I like how well it holds up to toned paper and still manages to shade even on the gray paper. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? I would go with a medium to dry flow fine pen, because that's where I saw the lighter tone that gave all that very nice shading that this ink can do. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video we're going to take a look at Mont Blanc's Burgundy Red.